Hey, this is Connor. Welcome back to the Smoke Shack. Today I am bringing you a Tabanero Bocado Cigar. It is in the 60 by 4.5. The wrapper, filler, and binder tobaccos are all Nicaraguans. This cigar, first off, right off the bat, smells phenomenal. I'm getting hints of leather, barnyard, and some sweetness in there. As you can see, this Tabanero box is just incredibly well made. All by hand, just a little bit of glue in there to hold the joints together. Phenomenal job for the sampler package here from Tabanero. As I mentioned, this is the Mesita line, and it is in the Boca, well, that's the name of the cigar actually. Getting into the presentation, it is an absolute 10 out of 10. I am a huge fan of the box. The band on this cigar is just really well done. Lots of detail. There's the flags here on the back, the American and another flag there. Just very unique. I'm pretty sure that's the owner of Tabanero Cigars blending a cigar there with a cup of espresso, if you can see in the detail. Pretty well done. The color here is a little less than ideal. It's very toothy, a lot of veins, but it's kind of matte. And when I'm looking at a Maduro cigar, I really like to see the sheen, like it was dipped in an oil can, you know. But the construction, I mean, it's almost perfect, except it's a little firm and a little soft in certain spots. In the firm spots, it's really firm. In the soft spots, it's really soft, like here by the band. The Vitola is a 7 out of 10. I'm not a huge fan of the 4.5 length. You know, it doesn't really give it time to evolve. I'm more like the 5.5. But I'm gonna go ahead, cut this cigar, fire it up, and tell you what I think. Very nice cut on that cigar. Sometimes you get it where it kind of splinters and, you know, you get a bunch of crumbs in your mouth or you have to brush it off. That was an ideal cut. So that initial dry job, man, that's flavorful. There's a lot of like fruity barnyard in there. And I did forget to mention, I went on Cigar TV. I used the AI mixologist pairing master, and I asked it what I should pair the cigar with. So it told me to pair it with an Oolong Tea to bring out the flavors in this cigar. So that is what I will be pairing this cigar with here. Yeah, right off the bat I can tell that that's going to be a nice pairing. So go ahead, fire this up, and see what we got. Man, that is smooth, very tasty. Very earthy cigar, very, very tasty right there. I did slightly mess up that lighting, as you can see, and I will take all the blame for that. I am new to using matches to light cigars. I mean, I've done it before, obviously, but when I'm doing the reviews, I like to use the matches to take away that, you know, what could mess with the flavor profiles in that initial fire up. So I'm gonna go ahead, smoke this down, and I'll bring you back with my thoughts on the first third. Hey, bringing you back in here for the first third. So really all I can say is, ladies and gentlemen, this cigar is really, really good. I mean, check out that ash. You can still see the teeth on the wrapper leaf on the ash. That is absolutely ideal. And even with such a terrible light job that I put on this cigar, it has pretty much evened itself out there. This cigar, you know, there's not a whole lot of flavor going on here. There's an oily, really earthy, minerally flavors there, kind of like a leathery, maybe a mild pepper in there, kind of like a hint of coffee. but there's nothing that's like really overpowering your mouth. This is a very tasty, natural flavored cigar in my opinion. Like it just tastes like you walked out in the woods and it's just nature. It is really tasty without, you know, like it's not one of those cigars where if you want a graham cracker, I'm gonna go pick this cigar out of the humidor. It is really good. For the flavor profile here, the intensity is an 8 out of 10. The only thing going here is because there's not one thing taking it over. And that's not necessarily a knock on the cigar, but it's true, so it's an 8 out of 10. However, the enjoyability here is a 10 out of 10. I think it's the only knock on the cigar on the overall score on the first third is the complexity. It's just, there's not a whole lot. It's a couple of things, but they're so well balanced that that finish on your mouth is an absolute 10 out of 10. And as you can see here, getting into the burn performance, I mean, just look at that smoke. The draw is a fantastic 10 out of 10. Everything in the burn performance on this scorecard is 10 out of 10. Consistency, combustion, structure, and color of the ash. It's slightly gray, however, I am keeping it at a 10 out of 10 because you can still see the teeth, and I think that's incredible. This is really well aged tobacco, probably really good fermentation there too. The smoke assessment, the resting smoke, I haven't, and this is the lowest score on the smoke assessment, an 8 out of 10 on the resting smoke. It's just kind of all over the place. It's not really like a nice pretty blue, but it's not coming out of the cap at all, and it's not coming off of the ash. It is coming off of that burn line in a like really incredible way, but it's kind of all around. So 8 out of 10, and again, it's not that pretty blue hue. But the drawing smoke, mouthfeel, temperature, and aroma are all 10 out of 10s. The aroma in the room, it is really like, it's like a mild peppery but leather. It's really, really tasty. So a pretty good score here, an 8.98 for the first third. I'm going to go ahead, smoke this down, and bring you back for my thoughts on the second third. Hey, bringing you back in here for the review of the second third. First, I do want to correct my score on the first third. It actually tallied up to a 9.01. So, my fault there, correction. Overall, as you can see, the combustion here and that burn line is really evened itself out. And the resting smoke has improved. The flavor actually turned over pretty well. It really got like a nutty, chocolatey, those earthy mineral flavors kind of mellowed out into like a nice chocolatey, nutty flavor. Sort of hints of leather in there. Not a whole lot changed here. I do give the complexity a 9. The burn performance is all 10s out of 10s. And the resting smoke has slightly improved here, bumping it up to a 9 out of 10 because it was coming right off of the top of the burn line and it was getting blue. Still not perfect, but pretty darn close. This score for the second third here is a 9.52, very respectable, pretty good increase. I'm really enjoying this cigar here. You know, the flavor profiles are, for a small cigar, turning over quite well. It's really well balanced. Very enjoyable smoke, and it has an extremely smooth finish. Do want to hit on the intensity here though. Right now I have it at a pretty solid medium. I'm thinking that's going to pick up here because this is a full-bodied cigar. However, right now I do have it at a 5 out of 10. Really good cigar. Looking forward to seeing how this overall scores. Catch you back here for my thoughts on the final third and my overall score. Hey, bringing you back in here, and Arnie decided to join us for the final third and the overall score of this cigar. Very tasty, really well done here by Tabanero. The final third, so what happened? The intensity in the flavor kind of died off because it wasn't so complex, right? Like in a 4-inch cigar, 4.5-inch cigar, it's really hard to get those flavors to turn over from the second third to the final third. You know, that's really not even a knock on the cigar, that's just a problem with the smaller cigars. Dropping the intensity of the flavor down here to an 8 and the complexity down to a 7. Why is the intensity down? Because, you know, it really wasn't popping in my mouth, as I had mentioned earlier. Those nuttiness flavors kind of balanced back out to a creaminess, really earthy, oily cigar. not much more going on there. You know, you weren't getting a ton of flavor profile there. The burn performance was phenomenal throughout this entire cigar. Absolute perfect job. 10 out of 10s across the board in all 3/3. I don't know that I've seen that yet since I started scoring these cigars. And in the final third here, the only thing that went back down slightly was that resting smoke. It got slightly wild again, but that balanced burn line was fantastic considering how I lit the cigar. Final third score came back down just a hair to a 9.01. So running through the thirds, first third 9.01. Second third was the best score, a 9.52, and I think that's because of those flavors that really popped out there, and the resting smoke had picked up from the first third. Also a little bit more complex in the second third compared to the first and final thirds for me. And then again, the final third score of a 9.01. I have a pretty good craftsmanship score here, a 1.68. However, I did mention that it was slightly firm and slightly soft in certain places. The firm spots were really firm, but that did not affect the burn and combustion score at all. As you can see, those scores were fantastic throughout, bringing the overall score for the Boca to a 9.18. A very good score here, and I absolutely recommend this cigar. Getting into those pairing notes that I really didn't mention throughout, the Oolong Tea, you know, I'm not really a tea expert here. I can't pick out those flavors, but it was like, honestly, it was like a bittery, earthy flavor going on there. Like if you've ever had tea at a Chinese restaurant, that's essentially what Oolong Tea is. That dark, oily tea leaves paired really well with this cigar. I absolutely recommend that for anybody who is into drinking tea. Really fantastic cigar. I would absolutely pull this cigar out of the humidor every single day. This is an everyday smoke. Honestly, this is an any time of day smoke. This would probably, actually, we have paired this cigar with espresso, and it goes really well with that too. Another thing, this would probably go really well with a nice white wine. I think a red wine here would be a little too rich on its own flavor profile and probably kind of take away from the cigar. Really phenomenal score here. Can't wait to smoke the rest in the sampler pack here, and probably will be ordering more here from Tabanero pretty shortly. Huge shout out to everybody who got us to the 100 subscriber mark on YouTube. Go check us out on our other platforms as well, Instagram and you know the other ones. Thank you for all those who like these videos. Please continue to like and drop the comments. We do read and we try to reply to every single comment that we get. We are on a huge chase here to get to 250 subscribers. We are not quite yet sure what we're going to do when we hit that mark, but it's going to be something pretty cool. Steve and I are talking about that now, so hopefully in the next couple of videos here we will be dropping what the giveaway or what we're going to do there. So continue to like the videos. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on the Smoke Shack.